All right, deep divers, are you ready for this? We're diving into some seriously cosmic stuff today.
Ooh, sounds intriguing.
It is, it is. We're tackling a question that's probably older than time itself. Are religions like all just elaborate star stories? You know?
I've heard that theory floating around, yeah.
Right. So you guys sent in this super interesting exchange between, at David, he's arguing that all religions come from astronomy, and at Light of Reflection, who's like, hold on a second. So we're going to unpack both sides, see what's what.
Sounds like a plan.
So at David's theory, right, he's saying religions are basically astronomy, but disguised as mythology, like using astrology as the language to decode these, like, celestial events.
Okay, I'm listening.
And he's got some, like, specific examples. He says Noah's Ark, you know the story. He thinks it represents the constellation Argo Navis.
Whoa, that's a new one.
I know, right? Wild. And then he connects Abraham to Abraxas, this figure from Gnostic mythology, throws in Moses linked to the constellation Aries.
All right, he's going all in.
Oh, he doesn't stop there. Get this. Adam and Eve leaving the Garden of Eden. He says that's a metaphor for the sun moving from summer to winter.
Huh, that's, creative.
I'm hooked. It's a pretty trippy argument, right? But does it really hold up? I'm not sure. That's where you come in. Help us break this down.
Happy to. You know, what strikes me about at David's idea is that, yeah, ancient cultures were super into the cosmos. They observed the heavens. They integrated what they saw into how they saw the world. It's a common thread across so many civilizations.
So there's some common ground, right, they were looking up. But where does this whole religion is just astronomy thing start to fall apart? Like, what are the cracks in the cosmic facade?
Well, at Light of Reflection makes some seriously good points against it. One of the first things they bring up is like the actual historical evidence about those big religious figures, the
Oh,
prophet.
okay, let's dig into that.
So prophets like Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, peace be upon them all, they're not just mythical characters from stories. We have documentation, their lives have been studied. They had a massive impact on societies that lasted. Like, to just say, oh, they're made up, ignores a ton of history.
So we're talking real people who walked the earth, made a difference, not just like concepts in the sky.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just existing. These prophets brought teachings that shaped entire civilizations, religions, they have laws, ethics, social structures, stuff that goes way beyond like, oh, that star means this.
It's more than just like stargazing and storytelling, right? There's a depth to it that seems to go beyond just astronomical metaphors.
100%. Like, look at the Quran. It has specific guidelines for justice, economics, personal conduct, even governance. Super detailed, practical stuff. It's hard to say it's all just hidden meanings from stars with that level of detail. And that leads right into another thing at Light of Reflection brings up. A lot of religions, especially the monotheistic ones, like the big ones that spread around the world, they focus on one god, right? Not a whole bunch of sky gods.
Right, right. One God.
And they actually reject stuff like astrology, sun worship, which is like kind of weird if you think about it. If religions came from those things, why would they turn against them?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like a contradiction, right?
Totally. And this ties into this other key thing that at Light of Reflection points out, the whole like disruptive message thing. Think about Moses, right? Challenging the Pharaoh, Jesus confronting those authorities, Muhammad, peace be upon him, totally shaking up the power structure in Mecca.
Yeah, they weren't just telling stories. They were like actually making waves, causing change.
100%. They challenged norms, they sparked movements, they transformed societies. It's hard to imagine, like, some seasonal allegory having that kind of power.
I see what you mean. Like their message went deeper and made people act. Speaking of those messages, how does this whole one God thing fit into the atheists' idea? If it's all about the stars, where does that come in?
That's where the Quran brings a whole other perspective. There's this verse, 16.12, it says, "And he has subjected for you the night and day, and the sun and the moon, and the stars are subjected by his command. Indeed, in that are signs for people who reason."
Okay, break that down for me. What's the Islamic view on like the cosmos and religion?
It's saying, look, the cosmos is amazing, sure, study it, be in awe, but ultimately it's all created by God. It's a sign of his power, his order. It's not that the stars are gods or the source of religion. They point to something bigger, a divine creator.
So it's like recognize them as part of this bigger divinely created thing, not worshiping the creation, but acknowledging the creator.
Exactly. The verse is like, hey, think about it, contemplate this, look at the universe, use your brain, and understand there's a creator behind it all.
That's a pretty strong counter to the whole religions are just astronomy thing. It's like there's a deeper meaning there, looking for something beyond just what we see.
Right. Humans have always tried to figure out, like, why are we here? What's the point? Some people find it in the stars, but a lot find it in something beyond the physical, a connection with the divine.
So we're basically saying that trying to squeeze these complex belief systems into like a purely astronomical box that's just too simple, right?
Sure. It's tempting to want one easy explanation for something as big as religion, but the reality is it's way more complicated than that. Like at Light of Reflection says, to say that all this depth and power of religion just comes from the stars, that ignores too much. The history, the teachings, the impact these faiths have had on people and societies.
This has been super insightful. For our listener who sent this in, what would you say is like the main takeaway?
I think the big thing is, yes, the stars, the cosmos, they've blown people's minds forever. But to say that's all religion is, that misses the point. You're ignoring the history, the complexity of what's written in these religious texts, the huge impact these faiths have had on shaping societies and individuals.
Totally agree. So what's the final thought you want to leave our listener with today?
I'd say, think about this. Are you cool with saying that all the richness of religion, like everything it is, comes from just stars? Or is there something more, something deeper worth checking out? Like, if this conversation got you thinking, dive into those arguments, see where it takes you.
It's easy to want like a purely scientific reason for everything, but sometimes there's more to the story.
Yeah.